All right, I got my old friend Joey O from Dunlop up in here. And Dax is here and Will's here and Maya and Hank are somewhere back there.
What's up?
Hi. So cool, man. Me and Joey go way back.
20 years?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yeah. We worked at Gibson together.
Over 20 years.
And
then we
Breedlove.
Yeah, did a little stint at Breedlove.
Then Relish.
Yeah, and then I spent 2 weeks with you in Switzerland.
Yeah.
That
was amazing.
It was phenomenal.
We'll tell you guys about that off the record.
All your shit is the stuff off camera.
That's right.
I was a good boy.
It was all me.
I was an innocent spectator in your sports.
So, dude, I want to talk to you about the Timmy pedal that MXR Dunlop just came out with.
Yeah.
What's the story behind this pedal? Because everybody's a buzz about it.
So the Timmy kind of came out of, we started this guest designer thing years ago. The first one we did was with a Japanese pedal maker named Shin that's famous for the Dumbleoid. And then
Dumbleoid, what is that?
It's a Dumble
overdrive
thing. And then we did a couple with an Italian cat named Carlo. That was the Il Torino and the Il Diavolo, super cool. Then there was kind of a lull, and we didn't know who was going to be next. And George Trips and I, of Way Huge fame.
Way Huge.
George started Way Huge, but he's kind of the new product manager, I guess, for all of the pedals for us. And George and I had tossed names around. We both really thought Paul Cochran would be the guy. Like the Timmy's like this reverend,
And
circuit.
Paul, for people who don't know, is a local Nashville
Murfreesboro
builder. Yeah. A pedal builder.
And
kind of was a legendary cat before all this came about.
Yeah, and then Paul had designed and put out the first Tim, which was this big, beautiful, hunky pedal. And at some point, and then he worked for Heritage Amplifiers and had designed this really cool Marshall Swiss Army knife circuit thing, and then eventually he made the Timmy. So we had reached out to Paul, and Paul's reception was kind of lukewarm. And then George had come to Nashville to do a handful of things. I'm like, well, let's just see if he can, drive out to Murfreesboro and see if we can hang out with him and get a beat on it. And we went out there, and we had taken a couple of. There was always the idea of, well, if we were going to do this, why don't we do it in a mini? And that way, he probably has no intention of making that circuit in the mini, And we brought a couple of the Phase 95 and a Dynacomp Mini, and I think we brought a Sugar Drive, and
all in a mini form?
Yeah, they're all minis, right? And Paul unscrewed the back, and he's looking at him. He's kind of mesmerized that we can fit all this stuff. Shit, can I say shit?
You can say shit.
I can say shit. All right, cram all this shit into this little pedal, right?
Right.
And he goes, well, I'm going to be coming out with the V3, the version 3 of the Timmy, and we wanted to do the V2 because that was the longest running version of the circuit, right? And the most, I guess people are familiar with that one the most.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm not going to do the V2 anymore, and I have no intention of doing a mini, so maybe you guys doing a mini V2, makes sense. And we ran into one issue where the prototyping was pretty quick and simple. Paul gave us the schematic, and then had requested one change with the pots, and then we had an issue with the op amp, where the op amp, the original one that we were going to use, we only had a certain number of NOS pieces, and they were really temperamental. And we went through I think we must have tried at least 6 different op amps, and the one that we kind of landed on was the 353, which is kind of part of our DNA. It's the op amp for the Green Rhino and a handful of MXR pieces. So the really cool thing that came out of it was not only being able to work with Paul and release this kind of historically significant, cool little holy grail piece, but that it's got a little bit of the MXR Dunlop DNA in it as well.
Cool, man. Yeah. That's a great insight to what R&D, what happens R&D and stuff.
It's
in
Cliff
the
Notes.
Yeah, that's the cliff notes of what goes into making a new product.
Yeah,
and the same goes for
absolutely.
like guitars. Me and you've done a lot of that. But,
Oh God, man! I was telling somebody the other day about the Voodoo series,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Gibson.
Yeah, I don't know what your version or recollection of the deal was, but if I remember right, we got a bunch of swamp ash
Got
that
a
we
bunch
didn't
of swamp
want.
ash. Yeah,
And-
it was something like that.
I think that vendor like snake oiled us into keeping that swamp ash.
Yes, there were, and it was. We really couldn't use it on anything.
And we didn't use swamp ash or anything.
Right.
That's,
It was kind
that's
of-
Tellywood.
Yeah, it was kind of. We just had to. It was something to do with that wood, basically.
Well, see, my recollection was that that it was right around the time that Henry wanted to discontinue the Gothics,
Right.
but we needed something to replace.
It was
that
a
stuff.
continuation of that
Yeah.
kind of metal. Just something
Yeah.
with that persona.
Like right around the grand. Well, were
Yeah.
you the one that did the red dye?
It was
over
actually
top the.
Frank did that. Frank was the first to do that. And then we just started doing all kinds of stuff with it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that had been done at some point. Not at Gibson, obviously,
Yeah.
not at any of the big companies, but some bass companies I think were doing it at that point. You guys know what we're talking about? The Voodoo.
I don't
series.
know.
It was cool. There was a Les Paul, an SG, an Explorer, and a V.
Right.
And it was a swamp ash body that was satin black, but there was where swamp ash is like super porous
Very grainy.
and very green. Yeah, the red sat on top of it, so it kind of looked like this red veiny thing through the black. It was
Right.
It was pretty cool,
That sounds cool.
except for the black and red bobbins. I think that was
Yeah, and
that was,
they also had like a little red skull.
yeah, that was lame. That was not our idea.
Yeah,
I think we were strongly opposed to that.
you're right. Yeah, there's a picture of it, dude. You can pull up a picture, Dax.
Yeah, I do remember these.
That is cool.
Yeah.
$13.99.
But just
like a
That's
studio,
what a
like
used
that.
one's going
Yeah,
for.
they were all studio, no binding on any of them.
we
They
can-
were
we-
all just
I can't say aloud what retailer has this up, but that's like I don't know if they're like insanely optimistic or if they
they
feel bad about themselves.
well,
for
all
doing
these
this.
weird guitars Gibson did during Henry's tenure, I've seen online where they're
starting to creep up.
They're starting to creep
well,
up.
it's like Norland guitars. Remember when you could find an RD for like
Absolutely.
$500?
Absolutely. Now they're through the roof.
Yeah, and now they're like almost $2,000.
You remember the Vegas? Were you there? The Vegas
Was that the flat semi-hollow
semi-hollow
thing?
with
And we
the
did
diamond?
Yeah,
Yes.
the Trini
That
Lopez
one
thing.
seems to, because they only did them for like a year.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool guitar.
It was kind of
And
maybe
it-
wasn't
that was a
refined enough.
precursor to the Midtown then. Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I was looking the other day and somehow came across one and I was like, it was almost like 2,500. Was pretty consistent at 2,500.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. I mean, these things were panned when they came out. And we didn't sell any of them.
It's like a flat. You say it's a flat top hollow
It's
body.
a flat hollow body. It's semi-hollow.
Yeah, the mahogany was hogged out like a weight relieved Les Paul.
Yes.
But then the cap, I don't think the cap was maple, was it?
Cap was maple,
It was
and it was
maple?
a quarter-inch maple cap.
Was it big like a ES or
No,
small
no,
like a
it was
Les Paul?
real
It was sort
small.
of- it was sort of in between.
Oh.
What was it? A 333 size or
It was
or
smaller than
339
that.
size?
Yeah, it was really small.
Oh, I thought I remember it being about that size. Huh.
Really super small. And it had the Firebird headstock.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, if you see them now, you're like, whoa, those would be really cool now. But we only did them for about maybe a year,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years.
Wow.
But
I'd like to see one of
going
those.
back to what my original point is, that's how the R&D works with coming up with new things. It's just like sometimes it's out of necessity, sometimes it's out of just meeting a person. Like you guys met Paul or knew of Paul living down here or something, and just teamed up with him and did it.
Well, it's funny. I've never had R&D's never been like a primary part of any gig I've had. It's always either been if I've been involved in. It was like when I was doing the sales and marketing thing at the plant.
Yeah.
I'd get sort of involved just to bounce ideas off.
Sure,
of,
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, or if it's artist related.
Yeah.
Obviously I've launched a handful of artist signature products
Mm-hmm.
through various brands, and that's always a reason, obviously, to do a new product. But here, kind of the cool thing is that Jimmy Dunlop, God love him. If somebody's got a good idea, it doesn't really matter what department they work in or what
Sure.
their role is. If somebody goes, hey, have we ever thought about making blah, 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 blah? If it's a good idea, then they'll run it up the flagpole.
Yes, and just through all the companies that I've worked for, when that is in place, when that ethos or whatever is in place, like not saying no to everybody, like even like the janitor could have a great idea. That's always been the healthiest companies to me.
Oh, yeah.
And just creative and vibrant and all that stuff. I mean, you guys know, or but being
Yeah,
at
I
a
agree
company
with that.
where you just everybody's ideas are open to explore,
Absolutely.
Unless it's something like, hey, let's build a guitar with a BB gun in it and a.
I thought you were going to say robot tuners.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ouch.
No, I'm kidding.
Ouch.
I kid.
I'm not getting this.
What's the story of that? Like, where y'all are both there when Gibson started doing that, the RoboTuners?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
I got a good story about the second version of that. Actually, I got funny about the first
First
one was
version. I was there during the first version.
Yeah,
and the second version.
Yeah, and the second. You were
Yeah.
there for the second too, because what was that one? Was that
The first one was-
Phoenix? What was it?
Darkfire.
Darkfire.
That was the second one.
That's
the first.
that was one of your stains.
That was
right?
one of my stains.
Yeah.
But the first one was the silvery blue burst with a
Yeah,
natural back. It was
yeah.
very weird.
Hey, for those that don't know, Chris Roberts is the most talented, spectacular person with staining wood, like especially blues and greens. And
you hear
I was
that?
never a Sunburst fan until Chris came up with this. I don't know. It's this 3-tone burst that you probably put on 3 of my guitars.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. But
That's a good plug for old Chris.
Yeah.
Dax.
Yeah, that's a.
hey man, yeah.
I've done stuff for. Have I ever done guitar for you?
You relicked my.
Yeah, that's right.
My Zach.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell were we talking about?
I don't know. Oh, we're talking about
robot tuners.
robot tuners. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my only
Yeah. Go ahead with your story.
my only good story about the first one was that one of Jack White's people called and wanted to buy some of the first robots, and I'm like, we'd gladly, hook you guys up and blah, blah, blah. Nope. I think he bought like 8 of them.
to do something with them.
No, he gave them away. He just thought it was an interesting thing, and he bought them and he gave them all away as presents. I think it was right around Christmas, if I remember right.
I thought maybe he'd taken them apart and used the robots for something.
No. And the other one, the other story I remember about that was it wasn't the second one. It was the third one, the Dusk Tiger. It had this Midas look to it.
Yeah.
It almost looked like wood paneling and then a mirrored pick guard. I don't remember exactly, but I was doing AR at the time, or ERs.
It had the
Gibson calls it.
weird, like Florentine mirror. Yeah.
Pick guard on a flat top like a Les Paul Special.
Right.
And we had to schedule these like press junkets for the release, and we did the one in Nashville at the local. Am I allowed to talk about other retailers? Or is that weird?
of course. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, was it because I don't think World was open at the time. I don't think Larry had opened this yet.
Maybe not. This is 06.
I
I don't know.
It's bad. Well, anyway, we did it at the local Ash, and I had called. Actually, Pat Foley and I both had called Audley Freed, and this is after Audley had done the Crows, but I think before he had the gig with Sheryl Crow. I don't remember exactly. And this is totally not Audley's thing. Like something, all the technology, and If you're Audley, he's like the sweetest
Sweet
North
guy.
Carolina gentleman. He goes, man, I just don't know what you want me to do with this. And I'm like, dude, all right, so here's the deal. It'd be really cool if you played like Traveling Riverside Blues in one of the open tunings, in the Robert Johnson open tuning, and then switched it to go to whatever tuning Jimmy Page played it in, and then do the Jimmy Page version of it.
All in the same,
Yeah.
with the robot tuners doing the
with
work.
the robot tuners, in the one with it set to, I don't know if Robert Johnson was like open G,
Yeah,
and
open E or
obviously
open G.
acoustic,
Yeah.
but then Page was open E and obviously electric or what, but he did it and it was cool as shit.
Yeah.
And then the other idea was that he he did something off like Sticky Fingers or Exile on Main Street where he played the Keith part in open G, and then with a telly, and then press the buttons to where it went to standard and a Les Paul, and he played the McTaylor part.
Did it all work?
Oh, it worked great, and like he kept time with his foot while the thing was doing its automated thing, and like we sold like 9 of those pieces of shit that day.
Wow. And they sold a grand total of
9?
12.
I don't know.
It was a much maligned idea. In hindsight, it's a cool idea, but man, the guitar consumer is just not into that.
Yeah, but if you would have told me that multi-effects would be a relevant thing 10 years ago, I'd have thought you were high.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people making rigs with Line 6 stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Helix product. Yeah.
Helix. Have you seen the Felix?
I've not seen that.
You guys know about the Felix?
I don't.
There's a
Steve uses one.
Steve
right?
uses one. Steve Gallagher uses one. It's called a Felix.
Huh.
What is it?
I got a picture of it
It's
right
like
here.
a step up from the LR bags, right?
Yeah.
Like an acoustic.
It's an acoustic effects thing.
So Joey, what is your? I know you as our Dunlop rep and Chris's friend.
Well, I'm not a rep. We don't have reps.
Oh, you're not a rep. So what is your
He's
title?
a product.
I tell people that I do whatever Jimmy Dunlop asks me to do.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, I
The
can't see
Felix.
it. The Felix. There's a lot of knobs.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, is it an acoustic preamp?
Yeah.
It's LR bags, so I'm sure it's good. Felix, that's funny. Huh.
I just thought it was funny they called it the Felix. Obviously playing off of Helix. I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Don't sue me.
No, I mean my gig here is I don't say that because it's currently where I work, but it's the best gig I've ever had. I'm a part of the sales department. I'm a part of the marketing department, artist relations. I do a little bit of product development. It's
And even what's your entry point into that side of the business?
Well, that's the other thing that's kind of interesting. This is kind of the culmination of almost everything I've done over the last 20 years. Is instead of having 1 or 2 roles, though, it's multifaceted with everything I've done.
Yeah, I think I've told you guys before. Working at Gibson, man, you might have a title, but you take on many, many roles, right?
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that people dog Henry, but I got to tell you, Henry treated me like gold.
I've often told these guys that. I mean, I never had a bad interaction with him.
Yeah, I mean, the best times I had at Gibson were the times I reported directly to him.
Yeah.
And Henry would do stuff like, it might be outside of your purview, but he would ask people's opinions, and the next thing you know, you're sitting in on a conference call with the Hendrix Foundation,
right?
Looking around, going, "What the
like
fuck
you
am
could
I
come
doing
out
here?"
with some crazy idea, and then the next thing you know, you're like in the middle of that idea, actually making it happen. But I've said this before, that he got a lot out of people, and you took on many roles. Like, I mean, there were some times when my role was something like as far out of what I was there to do as possible.
Yeah.
That's cool, though.
That's a cool fact. I mean, that sentiment probably isn't shared by everybody.
No, we're exceptions.
We're
to the
definitely
rule.
exceptions to that rule, but I never had a bad time there. It got stressful for sure.
Yeah.
But, he was a very demanding guy, and
Well, to me, the stressful part of being there through those years was the uncertainty.
You just never knew what was going to happen the next week.
And there'd be times where even when I reported directly to him, where I remember at some point I didn't hear from him, talk to him, get a reply to an email for, I think, over 3 months. And every day I figured, God, you know what? I haven't heard from him in 3 months.
I'm done.
What, yeah. And like every daily report at 10 a.m. Did you guys have to do that?
Oh,
in the
yeah.
plant?
Daily
10 a.m.?
report. I
Yeah.
sent a daily report every day.
Every day. It was due
Every
by
day.
10 o'clock. And if it was there at 10:01, your balls were in a sling. But, then out of nowhere, I got another note from telling me to go to Europe once every 6 weeks for a
It's
year.
crazy.
So, yeah. It's a trip.
Well, it was a trip to work there for sure, man. It was definitely a trip.
Baptism by fire.
Absolutely. But I can tell you, this is I went from Gibson to Fender, right?
Yeah.
So huge difference. Like, and goes back to the point of him getting a lot out of people. Like we had how many engineers you think we had?
Total? Oh, up in the pit with Keith Medley?
Yeah. 6?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. I get to Fender. Guess how many people are in the engineering department?
2.
98.
98.
98. I mean, we had amps too, but still.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But still, 98. That is crazy, man. I mean, and I see the good side of having 6, and I also see the good side of having 98.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, they covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And it was less stressful for sure at Fender, Your delivery was, narrowed down to a very focused thing,
Well, one of the things I always found was every gig, since I left Gibson twice on my own accord.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere else I worked, the one thing that I that was really consistent was like expectations of people who were just, I don't know if expectations on us at Gibson were
amped up.
We're just really out of whack with reality, and we just stepped up and did it.
I think that's the case.
Or
because I've had that same experience.
Or if all these other places we work, people are slackers.
I've had the exact same experience.
And I know Matt Ferguson has had that feeling too,
Absolutely.
like where you get into these other cultures and you're like, well, impossible. Well, you better make this shit possible.
Yeah. Well, I think I've told you this. I don't know if I've told you, but like my first few weeks at Fender, this guy comes in and says, "Hey, man, just sit back for 6 months and just get to know people." That was my job description,
dude. I don't. You know what? I mean, that doesn't even sound good to me. Like I'm wired to go 11.
Absolutely, and I did. I actually used that time to really do some stuff. But I was just like, wow, 6 months. That was a good job. I was getting a lot of money to do that job.
Yeah,
just chill out, get to know people, develop your relationships.
I could form a relationship by buying somebody one bottle of booze and just listening to them intently on what they're happy with and not happy with.
Hey, and don't forget to miss out on Fajita Friday.
Yeah, I mean, this shit is not hard.
We cut loose at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, like one of the things I did when I came to Dunlop was I spend 1 week a month. Well, up until all this pandemic shit, I spend 1 week a month in Benicia, and I go and I have a meeting with the warehouse. I have a meeting. I go over to accounting. And
you talk to everybody?
Yeah, I talk
That's
to
cool.
everybody. And like the big thing I do is it's not rocket science. I just look at them and go, hey, do you have any airing of grievances? Are me or any of the people that I kind of help mentor? Yeah. Is there anything we can do better?
Right.
Is there anything that we need to fix? Like pretty simple shit. And then once they know that you genuinely care about trying to improve and make their job easier, then if you need something, you're in a position to to ask a reasonable ask, and they want to help you because they know you give a shit.
Right.
So none of this is hard. But I learned that at Gibson.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And a lot of the people that have come out of Gibson and gone to the other companies in the guitar world say the same thing. It's like, wow, were we just we were living in a false reality, or everybody else is, slackers. There was such immense pressure at Gibson at every level to perform. And then, like, you go to these West Coast places, and it's like, hey, we have Frisbees on Tuesday. I don't know if you want to join us.
I don't understand Frisbee golf. Do you understand Frisbee golf?
I do. I like it.
I've never played it. I just don't understand it. So you throw the
to
Frisbee.
The basket. The basket is the hole, just like ball golf.
Okay.
And remind me to tell you a funny joke after that.
Okay, all right.
And different discs, you're like, you have your driver disc.
Yeah, there's different discs. You got different lengths and stuff.
Your putter disc, give it a throw.
But everybody
Hold
that I
one.
know that plays Frisbee golf gets really high before they do it.
That's part of it too, yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
Well, I can't get high and throw darts. So what's the... Dax, you're being awfully quiet here.
Dax has never played disc golf, trust me.
Real musicians don't like sports.
No.
Whoa! Oh, man.
Ouch.
What about Huey Lewis? He had a whole record named Sports. What are you gonna do?
Was he really? He's like really into sports, though, isn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know
I
anything
think
about.
I've seen a picture of him on a golf course.
I don't know anything about Huey Lewis other than that he wrote great pop music, and
Great.
that one chick that's kind of renowned as one of the world's most famous groupies says that he is packing heat.
Oh,
That's
really?
all I know about Huey Lewis. That's the news. See what I did there?
That's the.
He's got
Oh, it's a dad joke.
Huey Lewis. That was one of when I was a kid. That was one of my favorite albums.
Sports, really?
Sports, yeah. I mean, I wore it out. 84. I was 10 years old.
Is that Lucky to Be Stuck With You? Is that on there?
I don't remember that being on there. Yeah, I think it is actually. But
Good video.
he had like there was like 5 hits off that album.
Yeah.
Want a New Drug, Heart of Rock and Roll.
Oh yeah.
If This Is It,
If This Is It.
Heart and Soul. Did I say
Excellent.
Heart and Soul?
Yeah, you said Heart
Okay.
and Soul. Yeah.
Great tunes.
Did you just look that up? Did you cheat?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
promise. Look.
Oh, you're looking at porn.
Ouch.
Kidding.
Guitar porn. Guitar porn.
Guitar porn. That's what I meant. All right.
Anyways, all right. Back to Pal. So what's coming up with Dunlop?
Oh, dude,
Same.
like, it's like one of the crazy things here. There's 3 things coming up in particular that
Stuff
I'm
that you can't talk about.
stoked out of my mind. One thing that is just, it's not that it's this brand new idea, but it is such a vast improvement on something that a lot of people really dig. I hate to be that guy.
No, that's good.
But
I
don't
can't
wanna-
wait for it.
I don't want to Tom Holland the whole
Just
thing.
tell us and we'll edit it out.
Yeah, I'll tell
We'll
you off
bleep
camera,
it.
maybe. Yeah, no, they're always working on stuff. That's the other interesting thing about being here is that they've got, in particular, they have these 2 engineers, Sam McRae and Bobby Cedro, and Bob Cedro is like this Renaissance man. He worked with Tom Schultz on Rockman, and I think Bob was actually in the band Boston for a little bit.
Wow.
And when the Dunlops got Rocktron, they got Bob. And Bobby did the carbon copy with George, and he did the EVH 5150 pedal, and he's just this sweet and beautiful mind and soul.
That's cool, man.
And then, and Sam McRae is like the oracle. Just, you can give him a schematic for a pedal this big and tell him to put it in a mini, and he'll have it done at the end of the day.
Wow.
It's just, and then at the same time, they have this whole other, I guess I'd say the new part of engineering, which is headed up by this brilliant cat, Jack Tang. And he's got a crew of these kids that are just, geniuses. I won't play Scrabble with any of them for money.
Right. They're geniuses.
But it's really interesting seeing the dynamic of like who's going to work on what, and I really feel like we have the best of both worlds between, some of the seasoned cats and this bullpen of young geniuses.
Nice. And that's out in California. They're out in California.
Yeah.
You're
North-
the only
Northern
Dunlop
California.
employee in Nashville, right?
I'm the only Dunlop presence outside of California. Yeah. Well, and
New York?
No. Everybody else is in California.
Wow.
George is in L.A. And yeah.
Wow. Hey, does the Billy Gibbons strings, do they come in 7s?
Yes, of course
They do?
Yeah. So
You can get
you guys stock them here, motherfucker.
No, we don't.
You guys have. You guys have bought them before. They come in 7s, 8s, and 9s. That's if you want to hear about like product development and artist stuff. And Billy's one of my artists here, and he the Siete Santos, the Billy Gibbons pedal
yeah.
was my first new product I guess I worked on here, and that was cool as shit because they wanted to do a pedal with Billy for a while, and Elwood Francis, his tech, I'd consider a dear friend.
Sure.
And when I came here and I got Billy's account, I had asked Elwood, "Hey man, we really love to do a pedal with Billy, and it doesn't seem like he's super into doing a signature pedal. But there's got to be something in his rack that is just his fun. He has a blast with that I'm sure drives you nuts. And Elwood goes, "Oh, the Octavio. I got to use a 7-band EQ with it to notch out some of the highs. It's real shrill." And I'm sitting thinking about like Octavio. Well, the cheese wedge Octavio is this ginormous pedal, but the guts inside of it it doesn't take up that much room. And I thought, well, I knew that Billy likes to doodle. He draws. He's constantly drawing and doodling. So I'd asked for just the enclosure, and I went and met with him in Milwaukee. I was supposed to be in Chicago, and he was going to be in Milwaukee. It was going to be the soonest time I could actually have some FaceTime with him. And I went to Milwaukee with a couple of just dummy enclosures, Octavios. I'm like, "Hey, Billy," it's like, "Yeah, what do you think about like drawing on this?"
Yeah, I can draw some on now, buddy.
and he came up with this, the design that's on the Siete Santos, and it's pinstripe Billy. He pinstripes things for people all the time.
Interesting.
And it was kind of a self-portrait in pinstripes. And then we put a 7-band EQ at the top of it, and man, that pedal is. I'm not even an Octavio guy, but like the stoner metal, desert metal stuff. I mean, God,
I love that. I love
kill-
any kind of pedal like
dude. It does the Queens of the Stone Age thing. Like, I'm pretty sure we sent one to Josh Homme at Billy's request because it's just so perfect for that thing.
Hey, why don't you send over one to Josh?
Yeah.
I always wondered why the EQ was on it. So
Yeah.
That's
it's
the
really
reason.
there for Billy. It's there to notch out the highs, but God, if you gank the mids or drop the mids, it does all sorts of splatty fun things.
Nice.
Yeah.
So have you been a gear guy your whole life?
I mean, not really. I went through. I started playing guitar, and I couldn't. I had a band that I was 16, bass player was 15, drummer was 14, and we couldn't find singers, and I finally said, "Fuck it, I'll sing." And then I sang. We were a trio for a while, and then at some point I decided, well, I just want to sing, and I did the frontman thing for a little while in high school, into college, and then when I came here, everybody was such a great singer that well, screw it, I'll go back to playing rhythm guitar.
So what kind of bands were you listening to as a kid when you started playing guitar?
Well, my sister's 13 years older than me, and she's dated my brother-in-law since I was 3. So, like, I listened to all their stuff, like Billy Squier, Till Tuesday.
Love that stuff.
Styx. I mean, that was... I got, like, a really odd education. My taste is probably of people 15 years older than me because of that. But then you get into high school and you get in your own thing. And when I was in high school, it was grunge, and all of that.
Alice in Chains.
Yeah, Alice in Chains and 10. I remember the first time hearing 10 and just thinking
10.
Yeah, from Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam.
Oh.
10. That first Pearl Jam record was like,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Awesome record.
It's killer. It's killer front to back. But it's like. But then as I got older, I came back to Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Like everything comes back to Petty,
Yeah, a lot of things do.
right? Like
Absolutely.
he's like the one artist. And then once I got even more into like the deep cuts of Petty, then I got into Springsteen and the Replacements and all of that. Especially being here,
So did you come to Nashville for a job or for any reason in particular for the music? Or?
I came here because I knew I had to get out of Florida because Florida is God's waiting room. And it
We were
is.
just talking about Florida today.
I was born in God's waiting room.
The other thing about Florida, though, like I've been to that show Dateline lately. You ever seen Dateline?
Unfortunately,
my
wife loves it.
Almost every episode it takes place in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean it's uncanny. It's weird. I mean, it's the weirdest crimes ever, the weirdest murders. Oh, yep, this is Florida, typical Florida.
Yeah, that's Florida.
Yeah. There's a guy eating a guy's face off. Yeah, this happens in Florida. They got instruction videos about how to handle that stuff down there.
Yeah. Well, my first job was at Ace Music Center in Orlando, and when Ace got bought by Mark Beagleman and it became Mars.
Mars Guitar.
Mars Music. Yeah, a bunch of people that were Ace people jumped over to Thoroughbred, and I opened the Orlando store, and then I don't know if this is cool to talk about or not, but Elliot Rubinson, that owned Thoroughbred, almost bought Rhythm City in Atlanta, and like Atlanta's 20,000 times cooler than Orlando, and the Black Crowes were from there. So like, oh my God, we're gonna buy Rhythm City. Like, I want to move. I want to move to Atlanta and work at Rhythm City. It was like a ticket out of Orlando.
Sure.
And that didn't happen. And then the next thing that made sense was to open a store in Nashville. So when they said, hey, you want to move to Nashville and open that store, see how it goes, I opened that. My other thought was, well, Gibson's in Nashville. I thought, oh, well, I'll go to Nashville. I'll play in local shitty bands in Nashville and run the store for a couple of years and make friends at Gibson. And I made friends with Scott Eisenbray and Kevin Young.
The great Kevin Young. I hadn't talked to him in a while.
Yeah. And Brenda, you remember Brenda Larimore?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then when Thoroughbred got bought up by Sam Ash, right around the time that it was like writing on the wall that, man, they're not going to keep very many of the Thoroughbred people, are they? Then Gibson was looking for people right around that time, so I went to Gibson, and then,
the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a little bit of happenstance.
There's a lot of other stories smashed into that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We could spend like weeks talking about that.
I take it you've enjoyed Nashville, though?
I go through spurts where I hate it here.
I do, too.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I know we both hate the weather.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, the cliche, if you don't like the weather in Nashville, wait 5 minutes. Yeah. But you know what? I mean, really, if you have to live in an industry town,
it's the one to live in.
Yeah,
for sure.
not that I don't enjoy visiting LA.
Yeah.
But I lived in LA for, when I left Gibson the first time, I lived in LA for, basically 9 months.
Right.
And I love visiting New York. I got a lot of great friends in New York, but it's so impractical and it's so expensive.
Very expensive.
And it's hard. It's hard to live in those markets. And here you're in the middle of the country. If you travel for a living, this airport goes
everywhere
for cheap.
Yeah, that's
and if
true.
you're touring, like whether you're an independent in a van and a trailer,
the touring
you're
business
in a bus,
is based in Nashville.
Yeah, like you can be in like 12 good markets in less than a day drive. And
I think somebody told me, I think it might have been Kyle Jones.
Yeah.
Said that I think Nashville, within 3 hours drive, there's like 7 mid to major markets.
That
And
might
then,
be
like,
stretching it, but Kyle knows better than we do, actually.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, well, you got to think Memphis, Birmingham. I won't go through them. Atlanta,
Yeah.
Knoxville, mid to major.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ground to cover. A lot of people.
Well, and when I moved here,
Cincinnati,
Ooh, Bogart's in Cincinnati.
Indianapolis,
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
Louisville.
Well, they're all day drives. I don't know.
They're
about 3
all
hours,
day
but they're all
drives.
day drives. Yeah. But I'm not a huge new country fan. I'll leave out how I usually describe it because it's offensive to most people.
Yeah, I get it, man. I'm not, and I don't meet many people who are. That seems like something like it's on the periphery of the circle of people I know.
Yeah, it's tourist music, and that's
it's
okay.
touristy.
But you know what though? I almost moved to when I left Gibson last. I almost moved to Philadelphia to work for another manufacturer.
Ouch.
And I almost
Not my favorite area.
And then I turned down multiple opportunities to work for somebody based out of Arizona. And I almost went back to Gibson to do something with the New York showroom at one point, and God, and then finally when I came here, there was talks of moving to California, and it just makes sense to be here. And
On many levels.
And when people here, I don't know if you feel this way, but like when people come to visit Nashville, or they're gonna come visit, or they've got a friend or a family member is gonna come visit, and they say, well, can we get a list of what we should check out? My wife and I have like a list of all the touristy things that you probably want to do some of this, and then we have like a real Nashville list,
Local stuff.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
if you're gonna go eat hot chicken, try to go to Prince's during the day, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's local. We were talking about that earlier today.
And
Absolutely.
Go to Rotiers, because we don't know how long Rotiers is going to be open. Like, the first time I met Johnny Cash in June, was at Rotiers. Like, they were just sitting there having their cheeseburger on French bread.
I'm having a cheeseburger and a French fry. What are you gonna have there, Dave? Hey, Joey, how's it going?
So, I mean, like, there's a lot of I neglect a lot of things that are really cool about this town until somebody comes to visit. And then I'm pointing out the cool things that they should do, and I'm like, oh man, you know what? No other city has this, or maybe they have their own version of it. But
Right.
I end up kind of falling back into favor with Nashville, after that. One of the things I don't get about Nashville is that, like we were talking about the replacements before we got started. Tommy Stinson's Bash and Pop played here, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And he's a killer band. He's got Joe, the drummer from Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. He's got Steve Selvage, Luther's friend Steve.
Yeah.
Who Luther and Steve's dads were like Memphis music
Yeah,
legends.
Luther's dad actually produced Replacements record, I think.
Yeah, yep.
Because
Can't hardly wait.
Yeah.
Luther played on that record.
What? No, there's no way. Because
He-
Luther
he-
would have
Did
been
he
like
not play
12.
on it?
Oh, I don't know.
He told us he did. He told us he did the guitar solo.
Maybe
on,
he did.
on some.
I'm trying
Or
to
maybe it
think.
was a Westerberg.
What's that album with the hand, the handshake?
Pleased to meet me.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, Luther's too young for that.
but that's the one that
He
Dickinson
told-
produced.
he
right?
told-
I think I remember
me.
him telling that story. Yeah.
He told me the story about,
That's possible.
and he.
Well, because those him and Steve, like they played like session quality, tasteful, awesome. In probably middle school, they probably
Yeah.
played like that.
Right. Well, Luther even said what I did on the record was like he was just a kid making like noise. It was something like
I
that.
can see that. Yeah. Well, so Bash and Pop plays here at the High Watt a couple of years ago, and it wasn't packed by any means. I always think the same thing when Chuck Reagan plays here. Like I look around, I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. Where are you the rest of the time?
Yeah.
Because I don't see you at Third and Lindsley at Time Jumper shows or
Right.
So the one thing I would love to figure out in Nashville is to whenever the world comes back online, I'd love to figure out how to just make a broadcast of, hey, if you like the Replacements, you need to come see these 4 bands on this night, and
Nashville's flooded right now with musicians and bands and stuff. It's hard to do what you're talking about.
But not like just real dirty, non-judgmental songwriting. Like that's the thing that's beautiful about the Replacements. There'd be shows where they were absolute dog shit, and then there were these anthematic, amazing moments.
Yeah.
Like,
I get it.
Here, you can't have a shitty night in Nashville.
No.
You have a shitty night in Nashville, and you're just gonna get hate and blackballed and not do,
That's true too.
like my band. I want to go like play places and piss people off because nobody does. There's not that many bands doing just Replacements, loud, petty. There's not.
Rock and
Well,
roll.
I shouldn't say there's nobody. There's not that many bands doing that here.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I don't get out enough.
Well, nobody's getting out now.
I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Speaking of that, this will be the last thing because I know you got to go. Have you been in touch with stores, retail stores?
Yeah, I mean, besides you guys,
Is everybody going to make it through? You think?
I don't think it's safe to say that no matter what retail brick and mortar retail is just going to change now.
Yeah.
But the stores that have either a good online presence, even if it's just a Reverb page, I think they'll come out clean on this. I don't see lessons going anywhere. Repairs aren't going to go anywhere.
Right.
Like if I owned a brick and mortar store right now, and I had a good lesson program and loyal teachers with a good student base, and I had a really steady repair business, I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
I might think about shedding some square footage, but I think that those dealers are going to be fine.
yeah.
And then I think, well, since it's safe to talk about other retailers,
Yeah.
I think stores like CME and probably True Tone and the Tone Shop in Dallas. I could name 25 stores probably, but if you have a strong customer base and you deal with some boutique stuff, and your guys know how to talk about the difference between lacquer and poly,
Sure.
If you're one of those stores, you're probably going to be fine too. The folks that I worry about are smaller shops that have a little bit of PA and a little bit of drums, a little bit of guitars, don't have strong lessons, don't have strong repairs, don't do shit online. Like they're fucking done.
They're done.
And it bums me out that there's, small towns in America where that's the only music store, and the idea that a 14-year-old kid isn't going to be able to go into the guitar shop and mess around and listen to old farts like us.
Yeah.
Are we old farts yet?
Definitely old.
Okay, all right.
I'm
Old farts
so
like
old.
us. Like, I remember being that 15-year-old kid going to a guitar store and listening to, somebody talk about who's next.
Absolutely.
And then me, I have to find who's next. I don't even know who is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, every kid deserves to have that experience.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a place to go do that, that bums me out.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be, for the most part,
Did you read the Rolling Stone article a few weeks ago?
about
It was the online
This MI retail.
guitars,
like
pedals,
through
or
the roof.
anything are
Exactly.
through the roof.
Yeah,
Online.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. It's funny is the last I remember at 9/11, and I remember 2008.
2008.
Yeah. When the economy takes a shit, guess what doesn't suffer too bad? Acoustic guitars, especially cheap acoustic guitars, and accessories.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I remember every one of those instances, now included, there's been an uptick in acoustic guitar sales.
Sure.
Because if you're
They're
not
easy.
going out, you can sit at home and learn songs, and
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. That's the way it was back in the day, right? You
Back
sat
in
in
the
the
day.
parlor and played piano, or
Back in the day.
yeah, that's right.
All right, dude. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Hey, thanks for doing it. You gonna
Yeah,
come do
man.
it again one day?
Yeah, yeah.
Please?
We should bring Herndon or Luther. Or,
Herndon is great on here. Had him Luther. You got to help me work on Luther.
Oh, for him to do this?
Yeah, he said he would do it, but you know how he just needs motivation. I think sometimes.
Maybe I'll grease him.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an
If
MXR
if me
pedal
and
or
you
something he
team up,
needs.
now we're talking.
Sponsored by Dunlop.
Yeah. I'm sure if I tell him you're gonna do it with me,
I'll
he'll
blow
do
him
it.
up as soon as I leave here.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
Y'all got anything to add?
I got nothing.
All right,
Nothing.
out. Joey O out.
Is that the shocker?
All right, we're good. That's called the shot. Thank you, dude.